What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well, having a good Friday. It's Friday, end of the week settings. Another transfer view here. We're back live. A couple of days off. Not really, because some really late nights, but a couple of days off of the 9 a.m.s. But indeed, we're back. Myself and Marcel. Marcel, how are you doing, my friend?
Morning, Owen. Morning, everyone. I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I've been in a good, positive mood, even though I think some people are quite upset over the result against Real Madrid. But me, I'm in a good mood right now. I think we're going in direction as a club, and just had my pancakes. I'm feeling good.
Pancakes this morning.
Yeah,
Healthy
man.
pancakes or not so healthy pancakes?
Healthy pancakes has got protein powder in it. I got
Right.
chopped up bananas and strawberries. I put something called Fernegeek in it, which is something else that my partner put in there. But I've been really good. Been really good.
I've tried the protein pancakes before, and I thought I was being really healthy because my recipe, and I'll share this with you folks. My recipe was I'd have eggs, protein powder, bit of flour, or whatever, and I'd put cottage cheese in there, right? And I don't like cottage cheese, but you can't taste it in there. It works to sort of thicken it all up. And then I thought, I'm being really healthy here, Marcel. And I used to put loads of sugar on the top.
Brown sugar or white sugar, though?
No, there was lots of white sugar, and it was not good.
Okay, yeah. I would have.
I'd be like, I'm being really healthy. They're like, I think your teeth are rotting. You know what I mean? You're actively becoming like diabetic. The amount of sugar that's on the top of these pancakes. I'm healthy every morning, no problem.
Well, it's got vitamins in it. It's got vitamins, amino acids, all them kind of things.
It was not good, Marcel. It was not good.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's plenty of transfer stuff to talk about this morning. We're going to talk in a little bit, of course, about Rasmus Hojlund. Now, I saw some of you in the comments going, "Want United move?" Well, tell me something I don't know. Well, I'm telling you this, and we are telling you this because yesterday there was a bit of concern. There was PSG interested, PSG hijack, PSG bid, PSG agree personal terms. So some people were worried, going, what does this mean? What's the very latest? And the latest is that he wants the United move, and it's just up for United to agree that fee with Atalanta. They're still very much firmly ahead of PSG in the race for the Danish international striker. Going to be talking a little bit about Sofyan Amrabat as well. We're going to be talking about that one and how, despite a lot of people saying, oh, it's basically done, Marcel, it's not basically done. It's actually quite far off, and maybe that move has been exaggerated a bit. A little bit about outgoings, McTominay, McFred leaving, and also a goalkeeper on his way out that isn't Dean Henderson too. So plenty to get into this morning. Be sure to smash the like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let's start off talking, as I mentioned, about Rasmus Hojlund, the very latest for him. Now, as I mentioned, after all of that talk yesterday, which was PSG submitting a €50 million bid, agreeing personal terms with the striker, even though the Manchester United's bid is actually bigger, larger, the total package is bigger. PSG had put in €50 million. United had put in 50 million plus 10 million in add-ons. So there was a €60 million package. Fabrizio Romano tweeted late last night. It was at 3:23 a.m. Marcel, which is just about the time I go to bed at this point in time. It said that Rasmus Hojlund wants Manchester United. It's very clear since day one of the negotiations, and these final days of the week could be crucial. PSG bid hasn't changed Hojlund's mind at this stage. Priority is Man United. The club is set for a new round of talks with Atalanta. It's up to Man United now. So these new talks are scheduled for, I guess, over the weekend or possibly early next week. Alfredo Padula, obviously an Italian-based journalist, has been all over the Man United sort of Italy moves this window, was all over Andre Onana's been all over this story. He's all over the Amrabat story as well. And he's actually posted something quite interesting, saying that Atalanta are waiting for the official bid for Rasmus Hojlund between Friday and Saturday of €70 million plus €5 million in add-ons. There has been no official bid from PSG yet, which is quite interesting because yesterday, all of these reports from the French side of things are saying an official bid's gone in, but he's saying, maybe it's not official. Maybe a bit like United, it's a verbal proposal. Nevertheless, Chris Wheeler from the Daily Mail and all of the other British journalists said yesterday that Man United are confident they will sign Rasmus Hojlund before the beginning of the Premier League season. United are confident in Ten Hag's ability to improve Rasmus Hojlund and hone him in for the Premier League, with the player only scoring 9 goals the last campaign. They accept that he's a diamond in the rough. Are you concerned, Marcel, a little bit about the PSG interest, or do you still think it's pretty straightforward for United?
I mean, respect obviously PSG and their financial price. Obviously, they can come in and sweep players, and if we keep dragging our heels in it, there's potential for PSG to be able to successfully do that. But you know, when I get that feeling that Ramses is a Manchester United player, you know, at heart, or at least a fan, somebody that wants to be desperate to join the club, it gives me comfort in terms of the conviction that I have that hopefully he'll come in. It's just that price point. I feel like we're spending too much, or a little bit too much. There's a little bit of a premium on the potential side of things than the actual ability of the player. You can see that in the record and the numbers that he's put on the board already over the last couple of seasons, or especially last season. And that's the kind of thing that I'm worried about mainly. In terms of the transfer figure and fee, I don't think there's much to worry about there, you know, in terms of competition. The value, there is plenty to worry about. I think there's too much, but PSG won't have a chance, I don't think.
I mean, it was quite interesting, PSG yesterday, because reportedly they put in that bid, 50 million euros, and they said, this is our offer, and we're not going any higher, and if they reject it, we're walking away. And I went, well, it's good then, because they're not going to get Rasmus Hojlund, because they're not going to get, that's not going to be accepted. So we have nothing to worry about, because if that offer was accepted, if PSG's offer was accepted, then so would United's, and he's already, and he wants to go to United, and we've offered a bigger package anyway, so there's no problem, really. So I'm not too concerned, really, about, you know, they could go to PSG. You never know. I mean, obviously, PSG have the potential to go higher if they wanted to, but they don't want to. So I think United is still firmly in pole position. Frankly, we're closer to Atalanta's asking price than PSG are as well. That bid of 50 plus 10, I think might end up getting a bit higher. Maybe it might turn into sort of maybe a 60 plus 5, something like that, maybe. And I think that'll be enough to get it done. I do think there'll be progress over maybe the weekend, beginning of next week. United, and I spoke about this yesterday in a live that I did. I thought it was fascinating because all of this talk came out about PSG, and that was from the French side of things, suggesting that maybe they were still behind United, but they were firmly in this race. Very, very quickly, Marcel, it was clear that United had spoken to a lot of journalists over the UK and went, no, we're winning the race. We're confident we're going to sign him. He's going to be a United player before the beginning of the season. And also on top of that, then spoke about how he's going to be integrated into the team this season as well, saying that, yeah, we understand we're buying potential. We're not buying a ready-made player. He's a diamond in the rough. It's going to take some time to adjust, but we have faith in Erik ten Hag to develop him and turn him into a sort of a leading Premier League striker. What I did think was interesting, and I think is maybe a cause for concern, is them saying that we're going to develop him into a striker. He's not going to play every game. And actually, we're going to use Marcus Rashford a lot as a striker this season to help sort of ease the burden on Rasmus Hojlund. What do you make of that?
Oh, fantastic news. I was saying it before that you could see that Rashford would end up being a striker, or it would be okay if we don't get a striker. I was saying at one point, and for me, striker in terms of priority was below goalkeeper, and maybe even centre back or midfielder. But I knew that goalkeeper was a high priority. Once you've got somebody that can score the 20, you know, in and around that number. I think it's the second time Rashford's hit 17 goals in his Premier League in his tenure at the club. You know, his whole time at the club is and just in the Premier League, by the way. I mean, it's 17 goals. That's the second time he's achieved that. So we've got a sharp shooter. We've got somebody that can score goals. It's just about, and by the way, he's fantastic in transitions and counteract. Maybe not possession-based football when you're spending a lot of your time in the opposition's third, but in the other two phases, the second phase and in the first phase, he can create attacks. He's effective attacker higher up the pitch when our team has the ball in the first and second phase of the pitch, because he's a king of transitions and he's a king of counterattack. I'm talking about Marcus Rashford. He's very effective in those two parts of the game. Very good news, man. I'm very, very happy for that. Someone needs to share the burden for Rashford. We should be looking at it as if what we have now, currently what we have, is we have a player capable of doing it. We need an improvement on that to allow that player to really shine in the position that he's best at. But, you know, if we just look at what we have now, we could still go into the season with just Rashi up top. And I'm glad that there's somebody else there that's able to take on that burden and really push the abilities of that position even further, because we do know that, you know, even the game against Real Madrid, there was a couple of chances where you're looking at it, the striker buries those. Even the game before that, you know, you got Anthony missing clear-cut chances, scuffing the ball. A real striker that knows the technique buries that. So we do need him to come in. I
tell you what, Marcel. I've got to disagree. I believe that Rashford, obviously, he can play as a striker. He did it last season when he played as a striker in the second half against Man City, for instance, at home. He did very well. That's not his best position, though. Just because he can play there doesn't mean he should play there. Against Real Madrid, and it's one game, but I think we saw this at points last season too. Is just he can be so ineffective because sometimes the build-up play is good, but he just, for instance, against Real Madrid, I saw him. Was he really pressing from the front? Not really. You know, he had a chance. Christian Eriksen put him in. Poor touch. I think Marcus Rashford is what's the best way to describe it? He's not raw, but sort of technical ability maybe isn't sufficient enough to be a centre forward, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Rashford, I think, is quite an when he plays, put it this way, on the left-hand side, he can be quite explosive, can't he? You know, like you said, fast, gets the ball, runs at players, sometimes runs into blind alleys. I think he needs to work on his football intelligence with that. And that's maybe the point I'm making too, is that I think to be a centre forward, you do have to be quite nuanced and you have to be quite smart and intelligent of how you're going to make your runs and how you're going to operate and can you hold the ball up. And Marcus Rashford can't do that, primarily because, again, it's not his best position. His best position is a left winger. So it would concern me, and this is when you get into like Glazonomics, when you get into the season, when you go, did we sign a striker? We did, but we can't really play him every week because he's not ready yet. So because of that, we're having to put Marcus Rashford up front, even though it's not really his best position and he's more effective coming off the left-hand side. That's still a sort of square pegs in round hole scenario for United this season. And that's my cause for concern. That's my worry. In reality, it should be, we've brought in Rasmus Hojlund, but no worry because we've got Anthony Martial who can help, you know, lift the burden on him and ease the burden. The only problem is Anthony Martial cannot play 90 minutes. He did not play 90 minutes all last season. We were in 4 competitions till very late on in the season, and he still did not play 90 minutes throughout the season. Even now, he's back in first team training, full training on the tour, and Ten Hag sort of said, well, we'll see how it goes if he can hold up. But we know, we're not naive enough to know to think that, oh, yeah, you're going to come into this season, he's going to be playing loads of full games. That's not going to happen. Emery, I think maybe the smart thing would be like, oh, Hojlund's going to be starting the majority of the games, and Martial, hopefully, if he stays fit, can be coming off the bench and be working like that. I'd, to be honest, rather, with what I've seen in pre-season, I'd rather the combination be Hojlund starting the majority of the games. When Martial's fit, he's supporting. And then you've got Sancho as the false 9, rather than have Rashford play up front, because I just don't think Rashford's effective enough as a striker. But that's just my opinion.
No, I can understand it. But I got to disagree with it in the sense that the proof's in the pudding. Last season, he's put up the numbers on the board, Rash, in terms of being able to score. And a lot of his big goals were from the central positions, you know, against Barcelona at home, big header, I think it was, or was that in a cup game? But, you know, he's scored a lot of goals in and around those central areas against City at home. You know, I think he can play up front. It's just, he's just not, like you're saying, he's way more effective on the left side. But that means Garnacho maybe gets minutes. If you put in Rashi as maybe second striker, I think that gives more minutes potentially to a Rashi. Even to a Sancho to prove himself on the right side. Or maybe not the right side, the left side. I think Anthony's got that pattern down the right side. But we really do need to spread out those forward line positions. And if you can't, I'm not saying we should go into the market, go into the next season without a striker. I think we have to. I think we really, really do. But I'm just saying I could see the reality of, you know what, Rashi maybe has to go up front at times next season. It didn't look like it was something nuanced, like completely. I wasn't oblivious to that. I could clearly see Rashi's going to have to play up front next season. He delivered last season in that position. Our manager told us that Rashi can play up front. So unless we get somebody in that's better than Tony Marshall, somebody's going to be sharing the minutes, and Tony Marshall's never available. So Rashford was always going to be, in my mind, third place striker for the club next season.
Well, let's not get into what our managers told us, because Erik ten Hag has said a lot of things in press conferences that haven't turned out to be true. So I think the times of taking Erik ten Hag's word in press conferences might be a little bit gone when it comes to that. I mean, look, you do sirens. Your proof's in the pudding, really, when it comes to this, is that Rasmus Hojlund was always a target for Man United, but also so were other strikers, because the plan was to bring in, let's say, a Harry Kane or a Victor Osimhen and Rasmus Hojlund, because Rasmus Hojlund's not ready. Not Rasmus Hojlund, it can play a bit part role, or at least a partial role this season, but to rely on him as the number one central striker this season is a lot to ask. I mean, it's not Rasmus Hojlund's fault that he's not completely ready yet, because he's 20. He scored 9 goals in Serie A last season. I still want to sign him because I think he'll be a good signing for us. But still, I'm just saying that even as fans, we need to temper our expectations and realize that this guy right now, I mean, he might be, here's hoping he will be, but he's not the guy at the moment. He can be the guy. We want to turn him into the guy, but he's not going to be immediately. So he's going to need support. And if that supports Marcus Rashford as a striker, then you go, that's going to be tough. That's going to be really, really tough. And again, I think that's also why Ten Hag in this preseason is going, Jadon Sancho, can you do anything at false 9 for me this season? Because I'm going to need support. I'm going to need other people to try and support me in that position. So that does concern me a bit, because obviously, look, last season Marcus Rashford had the best season of his career at United, but for me, his best performances came off the left. And if he's having to play games up front, you go, are we going to be less effective off the left and also less effective through the middle too? That would be a cause for concern. But certainly, it's clear to see that's going to be a thing. That's going to be a thing, this issue. That's going this season. That's going to be something I think that we're constantly talking about. Super Chat PS says, United will go for a striker late August, not Kane, but maybe Taremi of Porto for around 20 to 25 million euros. He has ended up not going to either Milan team. Well, maybe. I mean, they might see how the budget is sort of stretched towards the end of the window. Again, it depends on the outgoings and stuff like that. So possibly, and also United. You know what United are like. Sometimes if the season starts and it's not looking good, then we panic. So
and spent the big panic buying money. We dropped the 100 million from nowhere, and Harry Kane comes to the club.
Exactly. Oh, you still think Harry Kane? You still on the Harry Kane? I almost let that one slip. I was looking over here. I went, sorry, Harry Kane. Harry Kane. You still believe in that?
I still do, Owen. And if the outgoings are outgoing, and we get players gone that we need to, Fred, Maguire, there's potential. I mean, how much is 65 million euros in pounds, Owen? If you know the quick or great maths on that, that would be like what?
Not at this time in the morning, Marcel. Not after the last couple of days. That kind of conversion.
But it would be like what in the region of what 40s, 50s odd million, and if you double that,
like 65 is like high 50s, isn't it?
Yeah. So you know, you put an extra 40, 30 million on that, and I think you maybe you get to have a conversation with Tottenham about Harry Kane. You know, I think Bayern Munich at some stage will table a 75, 80 million pound deal.
Oh, yeah. Jason said here, I hope we haven't forgotten the David De Gea shirt. That's right, Marcel. I forgot about that.
Oh no, I haven't forgotten. No, I'm due to wear it when we go to the studio. I feel kind of upset wearing it though, because I feel Harry Kane will be like he should be at the club. If we were,
that's not the bet though. That's not the bet. Yeah. The bet is it should.
I know. But you know, in the heart of hearts, if we were operating how Man United should operate, you know, England's the best player in the league. You know, he's available to come and join Manchester United, and it was mainly the number one target.
Is he though?
What do you mean? Is he what?
Is he available to join United?
Yes. Well, next year he goes. Well, if he doesn't sign for Spurs this season, he goes on a free for penny for nothing. They don't get any money, and they've just spent. They've been, I don't know if they've paid off their stadium and all these kind of things.
But right now, is he available to go to Man United?
Yes.
Is he really though?
Yes, he really, really is, and if we're really, really serious about it, we place a real offer. You know, a serious offer structured in a sensible manner to appease Spurs. But we've got so much business talking about the Glazonomics. We've got still other pieces of the puzzle for us to fix for this window.
But you look at Daniel Levy's been told by the majority owner that, you know, you need to sell Harry Kane this summer or you sign him to a new contract, so not let him go for a free. And Daniel Levy still ain't selling to us.
Well, I thought, for the right
that's
price,
when it gets to Harry Kane territory of like, Harry, if you want to move to United, you need to make it happen. You need to figure it out. You need to say to Daniel Levy, like Mbappe with the Saudi move, I don't care that you accept that offer from Bayern Munich. I want to go to United. They're going to put a bid in, accept it. But I just don't think Harry Kane's got that in him to do that, you know, because if he goes to Bayern Munich, it's very easy for him, isn't it? Because now he's already sort of passed the heat off him. It's on someone else. It's on the Spurs majority owner. I didn't want to leave. I was thinking, you know, I was going to come to the end of my contract. I was going to go on a free, but powers above me said I had to be sold. So I'm off to Germany. I'm off to Munich. It's very comfortable, isn't it? Whereas moving to United, not comfortable for him because he's got to force it. He's got to be the bad guy. He's got to go to Daniel Levy. You know, you've got to play. Got to put an ultimatum on him.
Yeah.
And say, look, I'm not going to sign a new contract, and also I'm not going to Germany. So I'm either going to go on a free next year, which you know you've been told that cannot happen, or I'm going to Man United. An offer's coming in soon. He'd have to do that, but I don't think he's going to do that.
Well, I think the wonderful thing for Harry Kane, sometimes actions speak a lot louder than words, and I think his actions of not signing that new contract, you know, and just staying in this position now where he's just in a bit of a limbo and not sure what David Levy's next move would be, I think is a good position to be in. You know, as there's still plenty of time for the window to finish, and David Levy has to make a decision now. So Daniel, has to make a decision now. So I'm happy that, you know, Kane's making this move. He's not ruffling any feathers. He supports Spurs. He's being respectful to the club. I think as a player, you still need to do that. You know, especially as a club that you love that club. I just think, you know, he's making the right decision. There's still plenty more time of the window to happen, and let's see what his inactiveness, you know, forces Daniel Levy's hand.
I do agree, and again, I think this is where it comes from. It's the fear of missing out, isn't it? If Harry Kane legitimately did get sold this summer to Bayern Munich, then I think there would be a feeling of, man, he actually went. You remember when like Ronaldo went to Juventus, and we were linked to him very loosely, but it was like, oh no, like because we'd been linked to a Ronaldo coming back to United so many times over years, and then he signed a new Real Madrid contract, blah blah blah. Then when he did go to Juventus, eventually I went, shit, he went to Juventus. He left. It was real, but it might be like that with Harry Kane. Like, no, we're not gonna. No, he's not gonna go. And then he does go, and you go, damn, he went. I didn't think that was going to happen. So I do think there is an element of a fear of missing out, but I don't know. But part of me, I don't know what's going to happen with him really this summer, because part of me just cannot see him signing for Bayern Munich because of the reasons to stay in England. But if it's his only option and they've been told, you know, you have to sell him this summer, and Daniel Levy's got these conditions of, you know, I'm not going to sell to a Premier League side, but and also Harry Kane wants to go, then maybe he does go. But also, I just don't think, like Bayern Munich, not only that long ago, won the Champions League during the pandemic season. Like they were good. But if you saw them play last season, they ain't that now. They're really not that now. And whilst he could win the Bundesliga, they win it every season. They weren't even great last season, and they still won it on the last day because Dortmund bottled it. But you're talking about like Champions League, like top tier success. I don't know if he'd get that. Not to say that he'd get that at United, but certainly those records that he's chasing in England, he could absolutely achieve those and hit those. So it's a challenging one, certainly. Ray Kyle says with the super chat, for me, if Kane doesn't go Bayern, he will sign a new contract. We're not getting him. Wow. I don't see that. I don't see him like this time next year, or like coming into the next season of the Premier League, being like, oh yeah, he signed a new contract, blah, blah, blah. I'm just not sure I see that at this point.
There's only two things that happen to Harry Kane, Owen. He's a Manchester United player that will win Champions Leagues or Premier Leagues, or he's a Chelsea player in a failed team and he makes the wrong decision.
You think he go Chelsea?
He goes Chelsea and fails at Chelsea, because Chelsea in that transitional period where they've got a lot of players that haven't gelled together. He'll go back to Poch. He'll go to the comfort of Poch, but it won't be the same. Poch will be having to deal with these mix of players that just won't be able to do it in the Premier League, and he'll fail at Chelsea. Unfortunately, he'll be trying to carry them every season, similar to what he's doing at Tottenham. Or he comes to Man United and becomes extremely successful. Plenty Champions Leagues, plenty Premier Leagues.
I don't think he'll go to Chelsea. I know people start talking about, oh, he's built this house that's not far from their training ground. Lots of clubs in London. so it doesn't matter. And also as well, these are multi-millionaires. He'll have a house in London. He'll just go buy a house in Manchester. That like they swap them around, footballers. It's no problem. It's no bother.
Yeah.
So it's the same if he went to Munich. Like he'd buy a house there. Again, he's a multi-millionaire. It's no bother. It's no issue. So I don't look too much into the house or anything like that. And also, I mean, I think and I got friends that are Chelsea fans, but I think some of these Chelsea fans have to have their head checked a little bit, because when they're talking about, oh yeah, we'd be interested in Mbappe. Why on earth would Kylian Mbappe go to you? And they're trying to leverage that they're not in the Champions League as a positive. Well, they don't want to go to a club in the Champions League. Did you see Chelsea last season? Even if they're a little bit better than that this season, they could still be like 8th, right? Yeah. That mean I just see so much chaos, and this is coming from a United fan, right? we live chaos for a decade. I'm looking at that club, so much chaos at the moment, and they talk about. Oh, I'm fascinated to see how that one plays out. I have no idea how Chelsea are going to play out this season, not at all, because they're still just, they're doing the Football Manager situation. When you start playing Football Manager, download shortlist Wonder Kids. That's what they're doing. Wonder Kids shortlist. Sign them all. See what happens. You need to have a mix. You need to have a mix of those Wonder Kids. And you don't want to talk about Glazonomics. They don't even have a sponsor on their shirt at the moment because they're waiting for the highest bidder when it comes to that. And then they've said to their fans, by the way, if you buy a shirt, you're not going to get it with a sponsor on. And if you do get the sponsor, when that does happen, you can't get it. It's just, they're crazy. I mean, Chelsea are nuts. Absolutely. How many views have we got? We got nearly 1,300 people watching, 173 likes. Marcel, he did some good maths the other day. He said for every minute, times it by 10, basically. Yeah. So it's 27 minutes past the hour at the moment. Therefore, there should be at least 270 likes, which we're not far off. But that's the ratio. I think that works. You're not saying too high expectations. You're just saying, for instance, when it gets to 28 past now, it should be 280, etc. Yeah. It works. I like it. Let's move on and talk about Sofyan Amrabat as well, because there's been so much talk about this move, Marcel, and I think people are getting a little bit carried away with themselves. Not to say that we're not going to get him, because I do think we probably will eventually. But when it comes to all of this, Chris Wheeler has said, reports relating to Sofyan Amrabat and Manchester United are, quote, exaggerated, but he is on their list. David Ornstein has spoken about this on 5, big up Rio Ferdinand and Joel on their channel, saying that it's one that United are looking at. Amrabat is aware of that. I don't think it has moved to the degree that some reports suggest. I'm not aware that a deal is nearly done or agreed. It is one that could be acted upon if there are departures. Now, they're saying that these departures could include the likes of Fred or another midfielder. Manchester United could then go back into the market. This comes from Sky Sports News, saying United have held talks with Fiorentina over Sofyan Amrabat. He is thought to be very keen on the move. And this was something that I was talking about yesterday. And I think United fans have to be a bit wary not to get too carried away with when it comes to this. Is because there's been quite a lot of tweets and reports over the last 2 or 3 days. It's done. Amrabat's going to be a Man United player. He's chosen to go United, and he very well may have decided to do that he wants to be a United player. And he's chosen that I'm going to go to United, and I think he probably is going to be a United player come the end of the window. But, and this is when you have to sort of temper your expectations a little bit, this one is going to take a bit of time. And I know people are going to get really annoyed when they hear that, but the timeline of this, I think, has been laid out quite well by the likes of Fabrizio Romano and others, where they've said, right now, it's Hojlund. They're doing Hojlund. That's the one they're going to do. Once they've done Hojlund, they then look at exits. They look at Fred. They look at McTominay. They look at Henderson. They look at Bailly. All of those people, they look towards those exits. Then with that money, they then go, right, we're going to go get Sofyan Amrabat. They can do it fairly quickly, as Ornstein said, because it's not really a big move. And the player has already decided, I want to join Manchester United. But it's not going to happen tomorrow. So when those reports come out that say United have put a bid in for Sofyan Amrabat, they haven't, basically. But I think there is still an element of confidence that this one is going to happen. What say you?
Can we still be excited about it, though? Can those people...
You can still be excited.
Premature?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, because this player is fantastic. Owen, this player is a top baller. This player completes the midfield. I know, unfortunately, Kobe, I haven't heard the latest on his injury situation after the Real Madrid game, and I hope a speedy recovery and in full fitness as quickly as possible. But he's got a whole career ahead of him, so I know he will see a Manchester United pitch again. But in terms of getting the top quality, assuring midfield, specialist six, completing the midfield, this is Amrabat. Amrabat's needed. You know, you got a champion, multiple Champions League winner, and then you've got somebody that is fantastic under tactical instruction, world-class defensive positioning, can really hold down the six by himself. You know, there's not many people nowadays that are doing that. You normally need a partnership, a double pivot. This is one of those unique footballers that can play the six by himself, understands the manager's tactics, played under the manager before. All these things are excellent, wonderful, beautiful learning opportunities for Kobe, you know, whenever he's back. So completes our midfield. You've got obviously Bruno's understudy and Manny Mount, and you've got Eriksen there as backup that can always fill the pockets, can always, it's just his defensive work's not good enough, but you've got three outstanding physical engines in Moni and Kobe, Cass and Amrabat if we get him. I'm heavily excited for this player. The price, you know, I've seen you mention it before, it's a steal in this kind of market. This overinflated market, that is a steal and a fantastic price for that kind of quality. You know, the quality to price ratio, you're not buying potential, you're buying somebody in their prime that's top level, showing it in the World Cup environment. So I'm very excited. Yeah, but you are right. I got to taper the expectations because, you know, we're under the suffering of the Glazonomics right now. So the deals are one by one and they're arduous and there's a lot of, you know, sagas going on and you know, saying that we're going in one direction and pivoting off to a different. So it might take time, but if we get this player and we're lucky enough, you know, to see across the globe and at Old Trafford, this player Amrabat in the team, the structure of the team is just going to be so strong, so strong.
I think with Amrabat, we really noticed against a team like Real Madrid how important he would be. You know, we just need legs. We need legs. We need intensity. And we need people that have a bit more grit to them in the midfield and a bit more mobility as well. It's kind of interesting actually already how Kobe Mainoo going off after like 2 or 3 minutes, and we went, we've got to bring on Eriksen. And then you fought against that Real Madrid midfield. Jude Bellingham, Luka Modric, Camavinga, Tchouaméni. And not only quality, but also mobility, legs, you know, just the engine that they have. You just went, we got no chance. And we didn't.
No.
We did all right. We did okay. And our build-up play to a point was okay. And then we got quite sloppy. But the midfield pairing of Eriksen and Casemiro in that instance is just not going to work. Just because, again, it's legs. It's legs. It's mobility. It's being able to get around the pitch. And Eriksen just doesn't have that at the moment. He still absolutely has a part to play at United, no doubt about that. You're not writing him off or anything, but we need more, certainly in that area. And that's where I do agree with what you were saying before when you were saying, like, it's a must, really, because there are going to be games like that this season where it's like we just need more in that midfield. And obviously, I think Kobe Mainoo, actually, it also opens up why he's going to be playing a part, I think, because we're going to need that in midfield. So Amrabat, absolutely, if we get him in, I think we'll be a top signing. I mean, obviously in the World Cup, we saw what he was made of there, but sometimes international tournaments can be not the best transition into club football. But then you saw him for Fiorentina in the Europa Conference League final, and he was going up against Declan Rice in midfield, and he came out on top. Absolutely schooled him in that final. Yeah. He was excellent, Amrabat. So I have no doubt he can make the transition and the step up. I think, was it in January? I think a move to Barcelona was on the cards, and it kind of fell through for him as well. So there's no doubt that he's a top quality player, and I think he would add a lot to us. He really would. So I think from that aspect, we absolutely need it. I just don't think it's going to happen soon. But I do think it will happen. So, again, I think that's a positive. The only concern I suppose we might have is that if we drag our heels too much for that price point that he's available for, what's to say or who's to say that another club doesn't go, actually, you know what? We've got 25 million euros. We've got 30 million euros. Why can't we do the deal? And maybe that's the concern that United have got to have, because we've seen other clubs in the past, you know, they pivot, they change and go to a different player. I mean, it doesn't look like, I saw Chelsea put in a bid in for Moises Caicedo the other day, 80 million, got immediately rejected because Brighton are looking for 100. Who's to say that they don't go, screw it, we're just going to get Amrabat cheaper and we'll go back to Caicedo next year or something like that. It's possible. Chelsea, that's how erratic they are when it comes to their transfer spending. So you never know. Tim Arnold is the latest member of the UV Members Club. Welcome to Tim. You can join him in the Members Club by clicking the link in the video description. It's also the pinned comment in the live chat. Get your badges, your emojis, and your exclusive members-only content as well. I'm sure the chat will be filled up with all of the emojis right now. I'm pretty sure at this point, Marcel's got like 50 different emojis in there that relate to him. There's Marcel with the eyes like this. There's Warsaws. You can get Warsaws in the chat. One is a crackhead that is Dave Chappelle, but people use it for Marcel a lot. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what other ones are in there. There's quite a lot. There's quite a few different Marcel ones. So yes, and you get access to the back catalogue of UV Raw, a behind-the-scenes look at the day-to-day going-ons at United View. The best episode by far is Marcel on the train with Josh and the insistence of eating the watermelon. That is the best. And actually, in the same episode too, that's where you get Marcel and his car freshener spray that he takes into every hotel room to freshen things up. It's a bottle that's about this big. It's an industrial sized bottle. Considering Marcel's height, it's like half the size of him. To be fair, I'm surprised when you press it. If you turned it towards the ground, you might actually come off the ground, like you know what I mean, like a jetpack. Two of them. That's how he started to travel to games. So there you go. Oh yeah, and there's porridges in the chat as well. Marcel's porridges in the chat. Forgot about that one.
Pancakes. I'm on pancakes now.
Marcel's pancakes. Yeah, Marcel's pancakes, and get that in the chat as well. So yes, you get all of that if you join the UV Members Club. More episodes of UV Raw on the way soon, particularly when the season gets back up. We've still got a back catalogue of loads. I know specifically a few that I've filmed, so they'll be coming soon as well. Let's move on and talk about Fred. We spoke about Amrabat, and we spoke about what could facilitate his transfer. Well, it could be Fred's departure from Manchester United. Alfredo Padula is saying that Fred will leave Manchester United as they want to raise funds. Apparently, he is evaluating 2 offers from Turkey, one from Fulham and another from Saudi Arabia. The question is, Marcel, where will he go, do you think? Where do you think he decides to go? Do you think he goes to Turkey? Do you think he joins Wilfried Zaha at Galatasaray? Does he go to Saudi Arabia, join some ex-United teammates there? Or does he stick around and stay in the Premier League?
Well, I saw him have a long conversation with, is it Fabio, the Fulham manager? I saw him have Marco Silva. I see him had a long conversation with him towards the end of the season. So I could assume that, that something could work there potentially. And they've got a few Portuguese, I think, players in their side, Brazilian as well. So something could work there in the Premier League still. But Galatasaray, I think, is the club he used to know. Shakhtar Donetsk he might have played for. So in and around the same league, maybe, I think, or it might be a different league, Ukrainian league and Turkish league, I think. But there's potential to see him go there as well. I would like to see him in the Premier League still. Just because of his attributes and how he plays the game. I think Fred would be still good to see in the Premier League at Fulham.
I don't know where I think he'll go. I mean, maybe you could obviously look, if you go to Saudi Arabia, you can go for the money. And that was kind of wild what you said there as well. Turkey and Ukraine being the same place.
No, I'm saying is it the same? It's not the same league.
No. One's in Ukraine, one's in Turkey. So,
yeah. No. The Galatasaray and Shakhtar Donetsk. One's Ukraine, one's Turkey. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. There you go. But I was was surprised to see Wilfried Zaha go to Galatasaray. I thought that was a bit of a waste, honestly, for him. I was expecting him. I mean, there were reports he could go to Saudi Arabia and something like that. But talk about a player that's constantly been talked about. He could go, and even now, he's a free as well. He could have gone to any top Premier League club, really. I'm not sure how much of a part to play you'd have, but you could go to... Imagine if we'd signed Wilfried Zaha on a free this summer, I don't think anyone would have been complaining that much, really. Everyone would go, oh, cool, Or if we'd have gone to maybe not a London club because of Crystal Palace, but when he went to Galatasaray, I kind of went, oh, I guess. Maybe, trophies, and I think they play in the Champions League, and they got players there. They got Icardi, etc. So maybe Fred will go there. I don't know. But he's definitely going to leave this summer, certainly. He's got 1 year left on his contract, so United have to cash in. And let's face it, Marcel, too, if we're talking about upgrades, Amrabat for Fred, you take
Major.
it, and you need to be ruthless. And because Fred last season, I was happy with. I thought Fred, particularly again in big games, I saw him play really well in some real big games last season. I think back to Spurs at home. He started then. He might be man of the match. He was incredible when we beat him 2-0. He was absolutely fantastic. And that's when, like at the start of the season, that Spurs were actually doing all right. People forget for a period of time at the beginning of last season under Conte, they weren't playing good football, but they were winning games. And then when we played them at Old Trafford, we absolutely dominated them. And Fred was excellent. I also think about, obviously, when we beat Man City at home, Fred that day was excellent. He followed De Bruyne around the pitch. De Bruyne still managed to get an assist because that's what he does. But Fred played really well that day. So I did feel like, maybe he could have a part to play at United, but year left on his contract. I think he's 29, 30 now. So his time clearly is up at United, but I don't think he's ready for like a huge step down or anything like that. If he wanted to stay in the Premier League, for instance, if he went to Fulham, I think that'd be a really good signing for Fulham because he could absolutely still do a really good job there. And with their midfield too, I think he could do really well there. So I don't know where he'll end up going. One thing's for certain, though, is he is going to go, and it's going to help fund the move for Amrabat, which, again, is a massive upgrade, no doubt about it. What are people saying in the chat? Almac says, Fred is 30, go to Saudi and get paid. Aslan says, bring back Cavani with a laughing face. He's leaving Valencia as well. What else are people saying here too? Hungry Alpaca says Fred is better than McTominay. Almac says send Maguire and Martial to Saudi Arabia. And still lots of people talking about the two different leagues, Saudi.
Oh, sorry, guys. Well, no, but I think I pretty much did kind of outlay that there. I just was kind of not sure whether they get Shakhtar Donetsk and Galatasaray.
It's early in the morning. It's early in the morning, Marcel.
But I know they're not
one of those ones.
Yeah.
It's early in the morning. How many likes are we currently on at the moment? It's we're on 273. We can get to 500 easy. So if you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well. Bottom right hand corner. I do want to talk about Scott McTominay too, Marcel, because West Ham clearly are very interested, and there's a bit more of an update on their interest in the Scottish international. West Ham, according to the ex-West Ham United employee account on Twitter, which breaks a lot of West Ham news, saying that West Ham are eager to bring in Scott McTominay to the club. The Scotland international is highly rated by David Moyes, and the boss has made it clear he wants his fellow Scotsman. There is currently a gap in valuations, but the club is hopeful Manchester United will soften their stance. This is an interesting one because I've seen the same debate that we had the other day, had quite a bit on social media over the last couple of days, saying how much is Scott McTominay worth? How much is he worth? And I find it kind of wild, actually. I find it kind of crazy that people think that he's worth like 20 million. Or 25, because for me, I think it's an easy 40. An easy 40, maybe even start a little bit higher than that and work your way down. But for the reasons I've laid out before, I think it's an easy 40 million. I think you look at the amount of games he's played in the Premier League. He's a Scottish international. He scored more goals than your other player, Declan Rice, in the Premier League. Not to say that he's better than Declan Rice, because he's not, because I know that social media takes that. If you say Scott McTominay is good, that means Declan Rice is terrible, apparently nowadays. But the point being is, he comes from Man United. He's played Premier League games. He's a homegrown player, come through the academy. You look at them putting bids in for Conor Gallagher for over 40 million. Why isn't Scott McTominay worth 40 million? Why not?
Agreed. My concern has always been just getting the deadwood out of the club, and it seems like we're doing both. I was always saying that last season it's going to be between Fred and Scott. You got to choose one. You got to keep one. You got to sell one. Looks like we're getting rid of both, so that's the good news. But I wasn't worried too much about the price point. I know you were saying before, you got to think about the money though. Outgoing business. We haven't been brilliant at outgoing business, for a long period of time, and there's an opportunity here to maximize the outgoing business. So I agree with that sentiment and that understanding. It was just, for me, getting rid of the deadwood is so more important than the price of in which you get it out. I would also look at maybe Scott McTominay's wages in comparison to Gallagher's, the likes of a Gallagher.
That's true. That's true. I think McTominay's on like, what's he on, like 100K? He's probably selling close to 100K. But that's just par for the course. That's like the base level for a lot of Man United players, unfortunately, particularly of the old regime. So maybe you're right. Maybe that does bring it down a bit. But I just think, I think so. Maybe United fans are sort of undercutting McTominay a little bit in terms of his value. We're talking about a player that I think is good enough to be a regular starter, certainly for United or anything like that. I think we've kind of found his role last season, really, didn't we? Of a bit part player, can bring him on if you're 70, 75 minutes and you're trying to hold out a lead or whatever, or you need him to come on, do a job on the player. I also remember last season, and people forget about this too. We were talking about this yesterday, that because people were quite critical of Casemiro, how Casemiro played against Real Madrid in the friendly, saying, he was quite slow, he was quite sluggish, and his passing wasn't great. Remember when Casemiro came in last year, Marcel, for like 6 weeks? He barely started for United in the Premier League, certainly. He played a couple of Europa League games. People have to bring it up constantly, even though Flex says it's not true. The Cass agenda was very, very real. I'm telling you, he's not it. He's not it. And then after a while, once he got his footing under him and he built up momentum and built up sharpness, he was one of our best players over the sort of winter period, to the point that when he was suspended, like when he got suspended for against Crystal Palace for the Arsenal game, everyone went, we've lost because Casemiro is not playing. He was that important. And who was the person that was keeping Casemiro out of the side too? Because it wasn't just Casemiro not being ready. It was also someone kept him out of the side at the beginning of the season was Scott McTominay. McTominay was playing really well. So the idea that, oh, McTominay's rubbish, he's only a championship player, he's trash, he's this, that, and the other. No, Scott McTominay can absolutely play in the Premier League. He's a good player. He's not a Manchester United starting level player, certainly. So we should move him on to bring in other players and facilitate other transfers. People like Amrabat, possibly, another striker, considering how much money we could get for McTominay. No problem with that. We've also got to get a fair reflection for what he's actually worth, which again, to me, in this current market, is at least, well, it can go, I'd say my lowest would be like 35, but I'd be looking for something like 40. And I think it does a disservice to United's actual window if we let him go for less just because we're desperate. The moment you start getting desperate, that's when you get him out. That's when it's like 15 million, 20 million, something like that. And I do think that's where United are being smart with some of these reports. I've seen them on Sky set, and I think this is probably a line from the club where they say, look, these guys aren't actively up for sale. We consider them important players. They said the same about Maguire. But if an offer comes in, we'll be willing to listen. That's because they're almost already negotiating through the media. They're sort of saying, and they're not actively up for sale, but if you want to get them, you've got to pay the right money. We're not actively like desperate, even though we are. We are desperate to raise funds. But you can't tell people that, can you? You can't go into a negotiation and say, oh, we're willing to sell for anything. No, you have to go, I don't know, actually. We're like your house. I really like my house here. So I know you're interested. You don't want to be like the roof's falling in. None of the plumbing works. The electrics are on the frizz. Then we're going to give you no money for them. So I feel like it's United just playing games a little bit. But I suppose the question is, Marcel, right? We're saying Fred's definitely going to go this summer. Is McTominay going to go this summer, do you think? Or do you think the window could shut and he could still be a United player?
I think, unfortunately, he'll go. Because I always wanted to keep one out the two, just because of the Glazonomics and the fact that we can't go into the summer transfer window and spend on 6, fantastic world-class players that strengthen your first and second team. So I always wanted to keep Scott out the two, but I think he will go. And I think you're right as well, because I was always saying 20-25 million before, or the last time we done the show, just to get him out the books. But I think his genuine valuation is about 30. And anywhere from 25 to 35, I'll be extremely happy for Scott.
Let's see what some of the chats are saying, some of our members. JB says, in the current market, Scott should definitely bring us 40 to 45 million. Nessie says, McSauce is a mid-table starter. Nothing wrong with that. I agree. Toby says, and this is what I was saying before, Marcel, don't compare Scott and Rice. Rice is better. I don't like him no more anyways, but I'm not going to say he's not better than Scotty. I didn't say that.
Yeah.
This is what I mean. Declan Rice is better than Scott McTominay. I know it's a hot take, isn't it, Marcel? It is. Yeah. But you just say, my point is, if you're going to buy him, what they'd be doing as almost a replacement-like figure, you would say, actually, he's proven he could probably get more goals than Declan Rice. Because, and this is what I would say to maybe some West Ham fans, is that if you think you're bringing in a McTominay to do a Declan Rice job, he doesn't really do that. We tried for a few years to play him as a defensive midfielder. He's not that effective. He's a box-to-box midfielder because McTominay can get you goals. And actually, if he played, because he's quite often in his United career, he hasn't really played box-to-box. I think if he played box-to-box every week at West Ham, I think he'd get even more goals.
Yeah,
because he can be threatening. People forget, come through the academy too. He played as a striker. He's a striker that got converted into a midfielder. So he absolutely can be a threat in front of goals, which again, I think goals are a premium in the Premier League. So if you're bringing a midfielder that you can go, actually, he can score. That should add a little bit onto his a little bit onto his value as well, certainly. Show Rahman says, if Gallagher is 40 million, then Scott is 40 million. What else we got here? Jason says, absolute minimum is 35 million. We should be getting 40 to 45. So quite a few people actually saying the same thing here, that they think that he's probably worth that. But we'll wait and see. Again, I wouldn't be shocked if he stuck around, though. I think that difference in the price might end up being a problem. But we'll wait and see. Humphrey with the super chat says, us fans want the club to get better prices for our players. And when they try, we say they're pricing the players too high. That is something I do notice, in fairness. With some people, you just cannot win, Marcel. You know what I mean? Why aren't we selling players? And you try to get 40 million and go, oh, we're pricing the players out and then we sell them for 20. We don't get that much money for our players. Or when we sign players, this is the one too, we overspend. Why are we overspending for some of our players? Then we take time negotiating, and we take too bloody long to get some of these signings through the door. For instance, I think if you would look at how much we signed Andre Onana and Mason Mount for this summer, you go, not bad money. Not bad money. Yes. Even though some people already are saying that Mason Mount's terrible and he's not going to amount to anything. You go, it's pre-season.
Pre-season,
so exactly. So with the Hojlund one might be different because, again, he's young. So you're going to have to you might be overspending a bit because of potential. But yeah, you can't win. Sometimes you can't win, can you? I think we're all caught up with the super chats there as well. Let's talk about goalkeepers finally, Marcel. Because Kovar, obviously, he's not with the squad in the USA. And it was reported by some outlets based in the Czech Republic that Manchester United want £6 million from Sparta Prague for Matej Kovar. However, even half of that fee is too much for Sparta Prague, who basically said no. So it doesn't look like he's going to be going there. I'm still surprised. I still don't get why we don't consider him as a backup option this season. I saw him play a couple of pre-seasons games, and I know that Suzuki, I think, has turned us down now because he wants more playing time or he doesn't want to become a number 2 or anything like that. First of all, I said 6 million. I went, I think, again, you're looking at Man City goalkeepers that have never played, right? And they're going to like Burnley for like nearly 20 or whatever. Kovar, way more than that. Way more. And also, he can absolutely be a number 2. Why not?
Yeah. I think let's see. At the end of the day, does he have the attributes to play under the Onana style or to get close to the Onana style? I don't know. I don't want to comment on his abilities when I don't fully know. But I think you might need a number 2 that we all like. The stability of level. Once Onana's not available for whatever reason, the level drops massively. So maybe they're just trying to get rid of players to kind of catch up and get a player that's got a decent amount of distribution abilities. Funny enough, you might even get a Sommer or somebody like that who've been chasing all last season. But you just need somebody else to come in.
And Sommer stuff again, Marcel. I remember doing the morning shows with you during the World Cup, guys. And you can go back and watch him. And Marcel, you were into Jan Sommer, weren't you, at the time?
He was all right. Yeah, he was all right.
I'm telling you, Owen. I'm telling you, we need Jan Sommer. Get him in the January transfer market. Replace De Gea. Get rid of him.
I think he would have done similar to what I think. Well, not on Onana's level, no way. But he would have just helped us retain the ball, I think, a little bit better. And I think at that time is something we needed. But the number 2 situation, let's see. I'm trusting Ten Hag with this now because he's got the main goalkeeper that will last a decade at least.
I think, again, I saw Kovar play a couple of times in those first 2 preseason games. Granted, they were against Lyon and Leeds, and he was playing with the academy players, etc., etc. But I see Andre Onana playing the majority of the games this season. I can't think of many instances where he would play the number 2, Ten Hag, because we saw it last season. Ten Hag really didn't want to do it, maybe for the occasional Carabao Cup game. That's when Dubravka played like once or twice. That was about it. And Marcel was raving about the warm-ups. And then I remember this too, actually. This has just hit me. Dubravka, he had a first half. I forget who it was against. It was in the Carabao Cup, definitely in the Carabao Cup. And he had a shocking first half. His kicking was all over the place. And I messaged, and people were messaging Marcel in the WhatsApp group. And Marcel went, he's got a dead leg.
Because something happened to him. I said, I thought he's got a dead leg or something like that. I do remember that.
You're like, he's got a dead leg. That's why his kicking's off. His kicking's off. It's like, man, I've never seen the Dubravka faith be this strong in anyone ever. And to be fair, you didn't do the same with Jack Butland when he came in. You're like, I can't do it.
He's a bit different, though. He is a bit different. Stoke City, long ball match, and his style of football is a little bit different. He's more traditional than Dubravka.
But no, I see Kovar as a legitimate option for a number 2, particularly now again that the Suzuki deal is not going to happen. So I saw enough even in those preseason games. So I thought, well, I'm not sure what the situation is going to be with Tom Heaton, whether he's going to stick around or not. Maybe that we're not going to get this backup goalkeeper in now. United are a bit reluctant to let him go to Luton, perhaps. So keep an eye on that one. But with Kovar, I thought, well, Onana's going to play all the Premier League games. He'll play the Champions League games. He'll play the FA Cup games unless it's against a much lesser opponent. Carabao Cup, he might play, if we get to the latter stages or something like that. But even if not, I'm still confident with Kovar and goal. It's not just based off the pre-season games either. It must be pointed out too. He won the league last season when he was at Sparta Prague. Like, he won a trophy. Like, he clearly is a decent goalkeeper. So I see that as going, first of all, even though that's too much for Sparta Prague, I'm looking like, well, quite a few clubs around Europe could spend that and get a decent goalkeeper, half decent keeper. So I'm of the mindset that, again, we should keep him. But he didn't go out on the tour, so I think that probably says a lot about his future. Maybe it's another loan for him this season, perhaps. Or maybe United maybe they do change their minds, considering, again, they're not going to get Suzuki, and looks like Henderson's going to go. And then with Heaton, we'll have to wait and see what happens to that. Very quickly, Marcel, before we wrap things up, what did you make of the game against Real Madrid the other day? What were your learnings?
Eriksen cardiovascular system is not strong enough for Manchester United's style of football.
Why'd you have to say it like that? Why'd you have to say it like that?
That's the way I decided to say it.
Given the history, Marcel, it's probably not the wisest comparison to make.
But everyone has one. Everyone has a cardiovascular system.
Yeah, but given his history,
well, everyone has one. So
specifically, of all the players you could say that about, the player that's got an internal defibrillator in there.
Okay, well, his stamina's not good enough. He's getting run past massively by a lot of players, and it's a bit. That's a massive shame. I think Andre Onana is going to absolutely, like I've been saying for years now, and hopefully everyone's seeing it now. Hopefully, a lot of Man United fans have seen the difference that a goalkeeper makes to your attacking. A goalkeeper makes to the retaining of possession. A goalkeeper makes to your transitions. A goalkeeper makes to your counter-attacks. Everything is the foundation of attacking your goalkeeper. To attack is from defense. You start your attacks all the way at the back of the pitch. That's where you attack from. That's the first place. That's the first attacker on your team, a goalkeeper. And hopefully everyone's starting to see that now with how Onana's playing and splitting up the pitch and finding the free man in the first phase of the pitch. The midfield overall, and Bruno out wide, we need to get rid of it immediately.
I agree. Yes.
Absolutely immediately. I've been a massive supporter. The Glazonomics last season, I understood it. So it was like, okay, we're makeshift in kind of positions, and sometimes Bruno has to be out there. But this season, he cannot go anywhere near the wide areas. We need to either get Sancho to suffer out there and prove himself. We need Garnacho to start stepping up. Because Bruno needs to play in that midfield. He gives so much energy and dynamism alongside somebody out like Manny Mount, who's also going to replicate what Bruno's doing.
You love that Manny Mount, by the way.
Yeah. Once Bruno goes, Mount will follow. So, you've got two high energy players, and then you've got the likes of, Casemiro that fills in the gaps and positionally is the best in the world at the CDM position. There's no one positionally, maybe Kante, but other than that, it's Cas. So I think, that midfield's massively strong. Garnacho looks really exciting. From that game against Real Madrid, I liked his few moments.
Did you think so? Because I just thought that, if anything, it reaffirmed to me that maybe he's not ready to be a starter just yet. I feel like his best role this season is going to be coming off the bench. Because really early on in the game, against a fresher fullback, I think you can't just rely on, it's just pace. You need to have a bit more guile too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you, and I agree with you when you say that. But he's developing onwards. I could. A lot of people were saying, his ceiling is maybe Real Madrid. But then when you look on the other side of the pitch and you've seen Vinny and Rodrigo, there's a lot of years in those two left. Valverde, a lot of years in him left. So maybe and if they get Mbappe, his ceiling might not be Real Madrid, but he needs to progress and be really, really good at Manchester United. And I think the signs are there early doors. He looks aggressive and looks like a decent player, man, and kicking on. So happy for him as well. But, I didn't see it as a major reason to be upset. I think a lot of people were upset online, obviously 2-0 to Real Madrid. It was pre-season, man. And Kobe didn't play the whole game. I would really like to see him in that, intense Real Madrid environment. And we had changed the whole team the second half when they scored the overhead kick. We had changed a lot of the side, Maguire and Co. A lot of the players that are on the fringes where we were playing second half. So it wasn't a full game of our best and strongest team. So was given a lot of comfort from the fact that we looked like we weren't out of place. We can play out in the first and second phase against a top team like Real Madrid. So was very confident and so much positives to take from it.
Indeed. Right, there you go, guys. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. What's on tap for the rest of the week? Well, more preseason tour content is on the way. We've got the game against Borussia Dortmund in Vegas over the weekend, so we're going to have full coverage of that. You can also check out the part 2 of the New York mega vlog went up last night. It's an hour long. Yes. Woo! So you get a full hour video. And also, I'm not making this up. This is legitimately true. I wish I had the footage. I only sort of realized it 5 minutes before the show started. So I didn't have time to pull the clip. But Flex and KG meet Facundo Palestri's father. That really happens. And there's a short chat with him. There's a short chat, a short interview. Flex didn't believe it was him. And then he got out his driving license. It says Palestri and all that kind of stuff. It's really his dad. Really his dad. So for all that time that KG says Facundo, he met Facundo's dad. So you can check that out in the vlog. Yes, exactly. So there you go, guys. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. You know what we're doing preseason. Plenty of content and more transfer news coming soon. We're out of here. Peace.